I remember back when I was a young boy being read a story of two friends, both mice. One mouse was from the country, and the other was from the city. They both took time out to visit each other in their homes. There was both good and bad in each of the environments, but the moral of the story, at least what I can remember, was that there was better to live in the country because it was quieter and safer. The problem is that back when this book was first published, only around 15% of the population was in urban areas. In today's world, however, it is estimated that over half of the world's population live in cities. The Bible seems to have a mixed opinion on the impact of cities. There are some cases in which the city has a bad name. So in Genesis chapter 11, we have this story of how God scattered those who had settled in Shinar to stop them building in the city. In Genesis 19, we get insight into the mistakes that Lot made for himself and his family by choosing to live in the city of Sodom rather than the countryside of the Jordan. However, in Jeremiah 29, you have God giving specific instructions to the people of Israel that had been ripped from their homeland and taken into the city of Babylon to build houses and settle down in verse 5. Marry and increase, verse 6. Seek the peace and prosperity of the city to which I have carried you into exile, and pray to the Lord for it, because if it prospers, you too will prosper. Verse 7. So God has a heart for all of his creation. It just so happens that the majority of his human creation are now living in cities. He wants all people to be reached and brought back to a loving relationship with him. His instructions were specific to the prophet Jonah in the Old Testament. I want you to go to the great city of Nineveh, and I want you to proclaim it to the message that I give you in Jonah 3:2. So when the city turns to repentance, the prophet is reprimanded for his distasteful attitude. You have been concerned about this plant, though you didn't even make it grow. Should you not be concerned for this great city Nineveh, to which there has been more than 120,000 people being saved? In society back then, 120,000 population was regarded as a great city. Nowadays, we have over 30 cities in the world with a population of over 18 million. What do you think God's message to the people of Tokyo would be, with a population close to 40 million? What do you think God's message to the people of Perth here in Western Australia would be? At the time of this video clip, Perth had just reached 2 million in population and is the fastest growing capital city in Australia. Inner city Perth has a population of 315 people per square kilometre, while the rest of WA has 0.2 people per square kilometre. Tim Keller, in his book Centre Church, writes, cities quite literally have more of the image of God per square inch than any other place on earth. How can we not be drawn to such masses of humanity if we care about the same things that God cares about? Cities are important in that they hold the majority of the population. Cities are important in that they are the hubs for transport, for technology, and for ideas. Cities are also important for their multi-ethnicity. Cities also affect cultures through universities and governments and law courts. Paul knew this instinctively when he set out to change the world for Christ. The majority of the spread of the gospel in the early church recorded in the book of Acts was done in cities. You've got in Acts 17, Paul travels to Athens, the intellectual centre of the Roman world. In Acts 18, he goes to Corinth, one of the commercial centres of the empire. And in Acts 19, he arrives in Ephesus, perhaps the Romans' world's religious centre. By the end of Acts, Paul has made it to Rome itself, the capital of the military and political power. Paul and other Christian missionaries went to great cities because when Christianity was planted there, it spread regionally and globally and affected culture. I would argue there is nothing more critical to the evangelical church today than an emphasis and support in urban ministry. There are challenges to ministering in the cities. Firstly is one of sheer scale and economics. There are 5 million people moving into the cities of the developing world every month. That's more than twice the total population of Perth on a monthly basis. Even if there was one church in every 5,000 people, which is way lower than what we're doing here in Australia as it is, this means that we would be planting 1,000 urban churches per month. The challenge is not just numerical, but also with methodology. The needs of inner city living are very different to that of regional areas or outer suburbia. Community Christianity is no substitute for incarnational involvement. Missionaries sent to fast-growing megacities of China were thought to need only to learn the language to make an impact. They were grossly unqualified, as they didn't even understand the culture of the people or the culture of city life. The church can no longer ignore the profound and irreversible changes occurring in our world today. If Christians want to reach the unreached, we have to go into the cities.